When I first met Yichen, he was standing under the old ginkgo tree behind the business faculty building, wearing a crisp white shirt that glowed under the afternoon sun. He looked like someone who was born to lead, calm, proud, untouchable. I never imagined that one day, the same man would destroy me with his pride. Back then, I was just a second-year student, reckless, loud, too honest for my own good. He was the Lu Group's heir, a man everyone whispered about but never dared to approach. But when he spoke to me, his voice wasn't cold. It was gentle, curious. He said he liked my honesty, that my words cut through the lies people usually told him. And from that moment, my world began to orbit around him. We started meeting in secret, away from the campus eyes and the gossiping mouths. In the library's hidden corners. On the rooftop after midnight, where the wind drowned out our laughter. In his car, parked under the rain, where he held me close and whispered things I thought only belonged in dreams. He said I was the only one who made him feel alive. That the world he was born into, filled with power, money, and cold expectations, meant nothing compared to me. I believed him. God, I believed every word. For nearly 2 years, we loved each other in secret. I still remember the scent of his cologne, the weight of his jacket over my shoulders when I was cold, the way his fingers brushed through my hair when he thought I was asleep. He wasn't perfect. He was arrogant, possessive, sometimes harsh, but when he looked at me, there was a softness in his eyes that no one else ever saw. Then everything changed. It started with a rumor, quiet at first, like a spark in the dark. Someone in his company leaked information about an internal project, a deal worth millions. Somehow my name was tied to it. Someone claimed that I had passed information to my uncle, who worked for a rival firm. At first I laughed. It was ridiculous. I had never even touched anything related to his business. But Yichen's face that night wasn't the face I knew. His eyes were cold. His hands, which used to hold me, stayed clenched at his sides. "Tell me it's not true," he said, voice trembling, not with sadness, but anger. "Tell me you didn't use me." I was so shocked I couldn't even speak for a second. "Yichen, you think I'd betray you? For what? Money? You know me better than that." But he didn't believe me. The evidence was too convincing. The leaked emails, the bank transfer, the witness. All of it forged, I would learn later. But at that moment, I didn't know who had done it or why. I only knew that the man I loved was looking at me like I was a stranger. "I gave you everything," he said quietly. "And you sold me out." That was the night everything ended. He left without listening, without giving me a chance to explain. I called, I begged, I waited outside his company for days, but he never came. And then 2 months later, the news broke. Yichen was engaged to my sister, Shen Rui. I thought it was a mistake. Shen Rui was gentle, shy, and easily swayed by others. She had met Yichen a few times when he came to our house, but they had never spoken more than a few words. I confronted her, voice shaking, heartbreaking. "Tell me you didn't agree to this," I said. Her eyes filled with tears. "Rui, I didn't know what else to do. Mother said this marriage would help our family. Yichen said it was what he wanted." I felt the floor disappear beneath me. It wasn't a coincidence. It was punishment. He was marrying her to hurt me. The night before the wedding, I went to see him. I stood in front of his office, soaking in the rain, until his assistant finally let me in. He was standing by the window, his back turned to me. "You're really doing this?" I asked, my voice breaking. He didn't turn around. "You made your choice, Shen Rui. Now I'm making mine." "I didn't betray you," I shouted. "Everything you think you know, it's a lie." He finally turned to face me. His expression was calm, almost cruelly so. "You're a good actor, but it doesn't matter anymore. The past is dead." Then, softer, almost to himself, he added, "Tomorrow I'll marry your sister. Maybe that will finally make me forget you." Something inside me shattered that night. The wedding was held in a grand hotel, filled with white roses and crystal chandeliers. Cameras flashed, reporters whispered, and the guests smiled like they were witnessing a fairy tale. I stood in the back, hidden among the crowd, wearing a black suit that felt too tight around my chest. When Shen Rui walked down the aisle in her pale gown, she looked like she might faint. Yichen stood waiting at the altar, tall and unreadable, his expression carved from stone. For a moment, his eyes drifted across the room and found me. Time stopped. His gaze locked on mine, and in that single moment, I saw everything he was trying to hide. The anger, the pain, the love he was trying to bury under pride. And maybe just for a heartbeat, I thought he might stop the ceremony, that he might walk toward me instead of her. But then the priest spoke, and Yichen turned back to my sister. He took her hand, said his vows, and when the words, "You may kiss the bride," filled the air, he leaned down and kissed her. My chest burned. The crowd clapped. The music swelled. And I knew it was over. I walked out before anyone noticed me. The air outside was sharp, the sky gray. My hands were shaking, but I kept walking until my vision blurred and my legs gave out. That night, I packed my bags and left the country. No note, no goodbye. I didn't even look back. Because if I did, if I allowed myself one last glance at the city where I'd loved him, I knew I'd never have the strength to leave. But fate isn't kind to those who try to run from it. Years later, when I thought I had finally buried the past, I'd walk into a meeting room and see him again. The same eyes, the same silence, the same unfinished story waiting to burn us both all over again. 5 years had passed since I left China. I built a new life in London, new language, new name, new walls around my heart. Work became my escape. I designed buildings that touched the sky, but refused to let anyone touch me.
It was easier that way. Safer.
When the email came from the Lu Group, inviting me to join their new real estate project in Shanghai, I almost laughed. The name alone felt like a ghost. But it was a project too big to refuse, a chance to prove myself, and maybe, deep down, to show him that I'd survived. I told myself it was just business. Nothing more. The morning I arrived at the Lu Group headquarters, the city skyline looked like silver glass under a pale sky. The lobby was all marble and quiet confidence, the kind of world that used to terrify me when I was young and in love with someone who belonged to it. People greeted me with polite smiles. Director Shen, we've heard a lot about your work abroad. Director Shen. Not Rui. Not the boy who once waited in the rain for Lu Yichen to believe him. I told myself the past was buried. I was not here for him. But fate always had a cruel sense of humor. The first meeting was in a boardroom on the 32nd floor. I walked in, laptop in hand, and felt a faint tremor in my chest when I saw the company logo embossed on the wall. LU Group. Vision for tomorrow. There were 10 people seated around the table. I recognized none of them. I almost relaxed until the glass door opened behind me. President Lu has joined the meeting, someone said. And then I heard that voice.
Calm. Deep.
Familiar enough to stop my breathing.
Continue, he said.
I turned.
Slowly.
He stood there in a dark gray suit, hair slightly shorter than I remembered, sharper lines on his face, but the same eyes. The same gravity that pulled everything around him into silence. Lu Yichen. For a moment, the room disappeared. The air between us felt thick, electric, like the space before a storm. I forced myself to nod in greeting. President Lu, I said evenly. It's been a while. His lips curved slightly. Not a smile, more like a line carved to hide something dangerous. Indeed, he said. I didn't expect the Lu Group's new architect to be you. I didn't expect it either, I replied. My tone was calm, but my pulse wasn't. Around us, the meeting continued, voices droning, slides flashing on the screen. But every time I looked up, I caught his gaze, steady, unreadable, heavy with all the words we'd never said. He looked away first. Over the next few weeks, I tried to convince myself that it was fine, that we were professionals, working together on the same project. But the tension was always there, quiet, suffocating, alive. Every meeting felt like walking on glass. Every word was measured, every look stolen. He'd ask for my designs, his voice calm and cool, but his eyes told a different story, one of anger, longing, regret. One night, as I was finishing blueprints alone in the office, I heard footsteps behind me. The lights were dim, the city lights flickering through the glass walls. I didn't need to turn around to know who it was. "You're working late," he said. "I have deadlines," I answered, not looking up. He walked closer, his reflection appearing beside mine in the window. "You could have worked anywhere in the world, Shen Rui. Why come back here?" I kept my tone steady. "Because I'm good at my job." He gave a quiet laugh, low, bitter, still as stubborn as ever. I turned then, finally meeting his eyes. "And you're still as proud as ever." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with all the years we'd lost. I saw his wife a few times in the office. Shen Rui was still gentle, still soft-spoken. She'd smile when she saw me, though I could see a sadness in her eyes, a quiet acceptance that didn't need words. Once, she came to my office with a box of pastries. "Rui, I'm glad you're back," she said softly. "You've become even more talented than before." I smiled politely. "Thank you, Wei." Her gaze lingered on me, searching. "You and Yichen, do you ever talk?" "Only about work." She nodded slowly. "He doesn't talk about the past much, but I know he regrets things." I froze. But before I could respond, she smiled faintly, as if she'd said too much, and left. Her kindness made it worse. She was innocent, caught in the web we'd spun years ago. And I hated that part of me still burned for the man she called husband. The breaking point came one stormy night. I stayed late again, reviewing a 3D model of the project. The rain was pounding against the glass, the city outside a blur of lights. The elevator chimed, and when I turned, Yichen was standing there, umbrella dripping, eyes locked on me. "We need to talk," he said. I sighed. "Now isn't." He didn't wait. He walked straight up to me, his presence filling the room. "Why did you come back, Rui?" "I told you. For work." "Liar." His voice cracked, raw beneath the calm. "You could have worked for any firm. You knew this was mine. You knew I'd see you again." I stood my ground. "You overestimate yourself, President Liu. I moved on years ago." He laughed bitterly, stepping closer. "Moved on? Then why do you still look at me like that?" My heart slammed against my ribs. "Like what?" "Like you hate me," he whispered. "Like you still want to hate me." His face was inches from mine now, eyes dark, searching. I could smell the faint scent of his cologne, the same one he used to wear. Memories crashed over me all at once. The rooftop, the rain, his hands on my face, the way he'd once said my name like a prayer. I tried to step back, but he caught my wrist. "Why didn't you fight harder back then?" he asked, voice breaking. "Why did you leave?" "Because you didn't believe me," I snapped. "Because you destroyed me." The words echoed between us. The rain outside roared. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, as if drawn by something neither of us could stop, he reached up, brushing a raindrop from my cheek. Or maybe a tear. "Don't," I whispered. "Don't do this." But he didn't listen. His hand cupped the side of my face, and before I could think, he kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate. Years of anger and love colliding. My body went rigid, then weak, my mind screaming no while my heart whispered yes. When I finally pushed him away, I was shaking. His breathing was ragged, his eyes full of regret. "That shouldn't have happened," I said quietly. He nodded once. "I know." But neither of us moved. The silence between us felt like fire, alive, dangerous, impossible to put out. After he left, I stood by the window for a long time, watching the storm. My reflection stared back at me, older, harder, but still haunted. I told myself I was over him, that the past was buried. But one kiss had burned through every wall I built. And deep down, I knew this was only the beginning. People say time heals everything. They're wrong. Time doesn't heal. It hides. It buries the wounds under layers of work, silence, and distance, until one day, someone says your name in a certain way, looks at you with familiar eyes, and the pain rises again like it never left. After that night, the kiss that shouldn't have happened, Yichen and I avoided each other. We exchanged polite greetings in meetings, spoke only about blueprints and budgets, never about that. But every time I felt his presence near me, my chest tightened. Every silence between us was louder than words. And yet, the tension was changing. His voice was softer. His eyes no longer sharp with accusation. Sometimes, when he thought no one was looking, I'd catch him watching me, not with anger, but something heavier. Regret, maybe. It scared me, because regret was dangerous. Regret could still lead back to love. One afternoon, while I was reviewing project reports, Shen Rui appeared in my office. Her smile was faint but kind, the kind that never reached her eyes anymore. "I made tea," she said quietly. "You've been working too much." I forced a smile. "You always were the caretaker." She placed the cup on my desk, her fingers trembling slightly. I noticed she was thinner than before, her skin pale. Marriage hadn't been kind to her. "How have you been?" I asked, hesitating. She looked away. "Yichen's been distant. But you already know that, don't you?" My heart skipped. "Wei. I'm not accusing you," she said softly. "I just want the truth." I opened my mouth, then closed it again. What could I say? That her husband still looked at me like he used to? That my own heart betrayed me every time he entered a room? She smiled faintly. "Don't worry. I've known for a long time." That quiet acceptance was worse than anger. I didn't know whether to feel relief or guilt. Maybe both. The next week, things began to unravel. It started with Yichen, Yichen's cousin, and the company's vice president. I had never liked him. Too slick, too charming, too aware of everyone's weaknesses. He'd always been the shadow behind Yichen, waiting for him to fall. One evening, I overheard a conversation outside the office. Yichen was arguing with one of the financial directors. His voice was sharp, desperate. "You can't bring that up now," he hissed. "That transfer was years ago. It'll drag everything down again." I froze. Transfer? My chest tightened. Later that night, I stayed back to check some archived files. My access level wasn't high enough for most corporate documents, but I wasn't looking for company secrets. I was looking for our secret. And I found it. In a hidden folder, dated 5 years ago, there were records of wire transfers, internal communications, and project plans, the same ones that had supposedly proven my betrayal. But one name appeared over and over in the authorization logs, Yichen.
Not me.
It hit me like a punch. It had been him all along. He'd used my name, my connection to Yichen, to cover his tracks. He'd let me take the fall, and Yichen had believed it.
I didn't sleep that night.
By morning, I'd already printed the evidence and gone straight to Yichen's office. He looked up when I entered, his face unreadable. "Shen Rui," he said cautiously, "you should knock." 5 years ago, I said, cutting him off. "The project leak, it wasn't me." He frowned. "We've been through this." It was Yichen. I dropped the folder on his desk. The papers slid out, emails, signatures, bank records. Every line of text was a piece of the past, screaming the truth he had refused to see. For a long moment, he said nothing. His eyes moved across the pages slowly, his expression changing, confusion, disbelief, then horror. When he finally looked up, his voice was barely a whisper. "You're sure?" "Yes," I said. "I checked everything. The timestamps, the authorizations, the transfers, it was all him." He stood up suddenly, pushing back his chair. "No," he muttered. "No, that can't, he wouldn't. But he would." I could see it dawning on him, the realization sinking in like poison. He sank back down, hands trembling slightly. "I ruined you," he said quietly. "I ruined everything." His voice cracked on the last word. For the first time since we'd met again, I saw Yichen, not the cold CEO, not the arrogant heir, just a man crushed by his own choices. "I thought you betrayed me," he whispered. "I wanted to hurt you as much as you'd hurt me. I married Wei because I wanted to see you suffer. I wanted you to feel what I felt. I swallowed hard. And did it work? He looked up, eyes wet.
No.
It destroyed me. The silence that followed felt endless.
I didn't know what to say.
Anger warred with pity. Love with hate. Finally, I said, "You could have asked me. You could have trusted me." "I know." His voice broke. I was a coward. I let pride decide everything. He reached out, almost as if to touch my hand, but stopped midway, his fingers curling back. "Rui, I'm sorry." The words hit harder than I expected. I'd waited years to hear them, yet now that they were real, they only made me ache more. In the days that followed, the atmosphere around us shifted. Meetings turned quieter. His tone softened. When our hands brushed by accident, neither of us pulled away too quickly. It was dangerous, what was growing between us again. We both knew it, but emotions have their own will. One evening, he invited me to see the model of the nearly finished building. We stood in the dim project room, surrounded by glass towers and soft lights. "It's beautiful," I said. He nodded. "It was your design that made it alive." The way he said it, it wasn't about the project. It was about us. About everything he'd broken and wanted to rebuild. I turned to leave, but he caught my wrist gently. "Rui," he said quietly, "if I could go back, I'd choose you. Every time." The sincerity in his voice hurt more than any insult ever could. I opened my mouth, but before I could speak, a sound came from the doorway. "Yichen?" We both froze. Shen Rui stood there, pale as marble, a folder clutched in her hand. Her eyes flicked from his hand on my wrist to my face, then back to him. "I came to bring you the final drafts," she said softly, voice trembling. "But I guess I interrupted something." "Wei," Yichen started, stepping forward. She shook her head, tears spilling over. "Don't. I understand now. I was never the one, was I?" Her voice cracked, and I couldn't move. Guilt crushed me. I wanted to explain, to deny, to do anything, but words wouldn't come. She looked at me with a faint, broken smile. "He used me to hurt you, but maybe I used him too, to hold on to the idea that I mattered." Then she turned and walked away, her steps quiet but final. Yichen took a step after her, but I stopped him. "Let her go," I said softly. "We've done enough damage." He stood there, staring at the door, his shoulders shaking. "I never meant to hurt her." "I know," I said. "But meaning doesn't erase pain." He looked at me then, eyes full of tears he refused to shed. "Do you still hate me?" he asked. I took a long breath. "No." "I wish I did. Because hating him would have been easier than still loving him." That night, I couldn't sleep. The city lights outside flickered against my walls, and I thought about everything we'd lost, the years, the trust, the people we'd hurt. The cracks had finally appeared in the mask we both wore. And through them, the truth was bleeding out. Ugly, painful, real. The city was drenched in rain the day everything fell apart. I had just left the Lu Group building when my phone buzzed with news alerts. The scandal was public. Pictures, whispers, and half-truths flooded every social media feed. Yichen and I caught in a story we didn't start, yet were blamed for. Shen Rui had already left him. I'd known she would. She couldn't live as a shadow between us. My heart ached for her, but there was nothing I could do. She had made her choice. I respected it, though it left me feeling hollow. I walked faster, my coat soaked through, my mind racing. And then I saw him, Yichen, standing in the middle of the square in front of the company headquarters, rain plastering his hair to his forehead, his expensive suit clinging to him like a second skin. He looked broken. Not the proud, untouchable heir, but a man stripped of everything that had once defined him. His empire, his marriage, his reputation, all in ruins. And yet his eyes found me immediately. "Rui," he called, voice raw and trembling over the rain. I stopped, staring at him, feeling the storm echo inside me. Part of me wanted to turn and walk away. Part of me wanted to run to him, to shake him, to demand answers for all the years of pain he'd caused. What are you doing here? I shouted over the wind, though my voice felt smaller than his. I came for you, he said simply. I have nothing left, Rui. Nothing, except the truth. That I love you. I laughed bitterly, though the sound was more a sob than a laugh. You married my sister to spite me, I said. And now, after destroying so many lives, you think love makes this okay? He flinched at my words, and for the first time, I saw the guilt consuming him completely. His shoulders slumped, his pride shattered, his usual calm shattered by desperation. I know, he admitted. I thought I could hurt you to make myself feel better, but I was wrong. I ruined everything. You, Wei, even myself. And now I'm left with nothing but this truth. The rain blurred the world around us, turning the square into a scene from a nightmare. And yet, it felt like the universe had conspired to strip us down to our raw selves. I trusted you, I said quietly, voice breaking. And you destroyed me. I know, he whispered. His hand trembled as he reached for me. I'm not asking for forgiveness yet. I'm just asking for a chance to rebuild. To prove I love you, not the shadow of revenge, not pride, me, Rui. Just me. I wanted to hate him. Every rational part of me screamed to turn away. But when his eyes met mine, soaked and pleading, my walls began to crumble. Years of anger, resentment, and heartbreak collided with something I hadn't admitted even to myself. I still loved him. You think it's that simple? I said, stepping back, though my legs felt weak. Do you know how much I've suffered? How much I've buried inside me because of you? I do, he said. I feel it in every heartbeat. I know I don't deserve you, but I'm asking, can you let me try? The storm seemed to still around us for a heartbeat. The wind had slowed. The rain softened. Only the two of us remained in the chaos of a world watching and judging. I saw the cracks in his armor. The man I once loved, the man I feared, the man I hated, all merged into someone unbearably human, fragile, broken, and desperately sincere. And then, without thinking, I stepped forward. The words didn't come easily. Tears mixed with rain, blurring my vision. You married her to hurt me, I whispered, my voice shaking, but you only ended up destroying yourself. He didn't move at first, just stared at me, searching for the full weight of my meaning. Then slowly he smiled, faint, almost fragile, but real. Then let me rebuild, this time for you, he said. I wanted to run to him. I wanted to collapse into his arms and never let go. I wanted to forgive everything in that one moment. But my pride, my fear, and the memory of all the hurt still held me back. You'll have to earn it, I said quietly. Every day. Not words. Actions. Every single day. He nodded, eyes glistening with rain and emotion. I will. I swear, Rui. I will. Then the wind picked up again, sending sheets of rain around us like a curtain. And I realized, for the first time in years, I didn't care what the world thought. All that mattered was standing here, together, ready to try again, fragile, scarred, but willing. He reached for my hand, and this time I didn't pull away. The warmth of his skin against mine grounded me in the chaos. I could feel the storm within him, and within myself, beginning to settle. You're insane, I said softly, a small smile breaking through the tears. And you still love me, he said, voice almost a whisper. Yes, I admitted, letting the word escape freely. And I always will. The city seemed to hold its breath. The rain didn't feel cold anymore. It was cleansing, washing away the remnants of pride, revenge, and pain. Only the two of us remained in the storm, two souls who had been torn apart, broken, and yet somehow returned to one another. He pulled me close, carefully this time, letting the space between us disappear. And for the first time, I let myself fall into the comfort and danger of love once more. Not perfect, not simple, but real. I closed my eyes as he held me, and for the first time since that long-ago wedding, I felt home. And in the chaos, the scandal, the ruined empires and broken hearts, we found something more lasting than pride or revenge. We found each other. You married her to hurt me, I whispered, but You only ended up destroying yourself. Yichen smiled faintly, brushing the rain from my hair. Then let me rebuild, this time for you.